Hello, I wanted to come on today and talk about our recent trip to Mackinac Island, Michigan. Tim and I celebrated our 5.5 wedding anniversary. I know that sounds weird, so I'll try and give a little bit of background to why we celebrate twice a year. So Tim and I, our families have always known each other because we grew up together through church affiliations. And then when we became teenagers, we started dating. So we dated a couple of years when we were teenagers, and then we broke up. I was right out of high school, and I think Tim had a couple more years to go because he's 2 years younger than me. So after we broke up, we kind of went our separate ways. Tim got married and had 3 kids, and I stayed single. I never got married or had kids. So we didn't really keep in contact. I mean, here and there we might communicate through, I think it was MySpace back then. I think that was maybe once, but we never talked during that time. We saw each other maybe a couple times through church events or weddings, but that was pretty much it. Fast forward to 2008, I moved down to Cincinnati. I lived there for 8 years. Fast forward to 2015, I made a list that January 2015 of my one, and I typed it up on Excel and saved it and just put it away. I didn't really look at it after I made my list of the person that I would want to be my husband. Fast forward to March of 2015, I found out that I had breast cancer. I went through all the treatments. I started my treatments that April of 2015, and then several months after that, his oldest sister reached out to me, and we had kept in contact here and there, his sister and I, but it had been several years since the last time I had spoken to her. So when she called me, it went to voicemail. I don't think she left a voice message, but I ended up calling her back because I thought maybe she had heard that I was sick. I ended up calling her back one day. I was actually in the chemo room, and we talked for maybe 45 minutes to an hour, and it never came up that I was sick. So I didn't bring it up because, I mean, it wasn't like a secret that I was sick, but I also wasn't like just sharing it. So several months after that, she texted me and asked if it was okay if she gave my number to Tim. I was hesitant, and I kind of joked. I said, "What does Tim want?" And she said something like, "Same old Tim, different stories." Of course, I told her, yeah, it was okay, and he called me the same day. I was debating whether I was going to call him back, but I did. A couple days later, I did call him back. And this was maybe, I want to say July or August of 2015. I ended up telling him that I was sick, and he was in shock. He couldn't believe it. He came down to visit that same weekend because he was in Michigan. That's where I'm originally from, by the way. So he came down to Ohio that weekend, and we just hung out. And it was just like we just picked back up where we had left off. I mean, I was just kind of hanging out with a good friend. Of course, we had dated. He was an ex of mine, but we were kids back then. So before she even asked me if it was okay if she gave him my number, I didn't even know if he was still married or single. So he was divorced at the time. And so yeah, he came down that weekend. We hung out. We had a great time. He started coming down maybe every other weekend, and we would hang out. Some weekends I would go to Michigan to see him, and then also always visit my family. So it just kind of like, we just started dating. As we were dating, it was kind of apparent that we were meant to be together. For me, I was thinking, for one, it was the way he came back into my life during a time that I was going through breast cancer. Of course, I wasn't expecting anything out of us reconnecting. I was just thinking, we'll just be good friends or whatever. It wasn't until maybe a couple months after we had been dating that I realized that he was everything on my list. And then based on our conversations, it was just, like I said, apparent that we were meant to be together. We decided to get married. I don't know what those conversations entailed because it was a lot of peeling back layers during that time. I had a lot of skeletons in my closet that I didn't want to share, but he peeled back those layers, and yes, he accepted me, flaws and all, like they say. When we decided to get married, we were going back and forth with whether I was going to move back to Michigan or if he was going to move down to Cincinnati. It was a bit of an emotional roller coaster during that time, but I did decide to move back to Michigan because he wanted to stay in Michigan to be with his kids. We were trying to figure out all of the logistics of when we would get married, how we would get married, whether we wanted a big wedding or just family and friends. So anyways, we were just working through all of that, trying to decide whether we were going to get married in Cincinnati or in Michigan. The way it all worked out, we were actually, the day that we were going to get married, we were going to meet halfway in Lima, Ohio. And so I was doing some calling around to see if there was someone available on that specific day. I'm not sure all of the details of what happened, but we ended up getting our license in Cincinnati. And so I guess the justice of the peace, we were asking her some questions, and we wanted to know if she knew anybody that could marry us in Cincinnati. And so she was like, I can. So we ended up meeting up several hours after that at this park, one of my favorite parks in Cincinnati, called Eden Park. And it was just him and I, and it was beautiful. The weather was perfect. It was May 12th, 2016. So that's when we originally got married. After we got married, I got moved back to Michigan. And then we decided, I guess later on, we decided that we wanted to have a celebration. I believe we were thinking about having a celebration originally. We were just trying to figure out if we still would after we got married. It was just a lot going on. We did decide to have a celebration with our family and friends October of that same year, 2016, and it was beautiful. And then it was also in October, and fall is my favorite season. I was excited just to have a date in October or in the fall where we could also celebrate. So it just all worked out, and now we celebrate twice a year. So long story long, so this is our 5.5-year anniversary. We decided to go up to Mackinac Island. I hadn't been there since before I moved to Cincinnati in 2008. So we wanted to stay on the island, but it was a lot of places that were sold out. If they weren't sold out, they were just super expensive. So we ended up staying in St. Ignace, which is just over the Mackinac Bridge, and we went up Friday night. So when we crossed the bridge, it was dark, so we couldn't really get any pictures going over the bridge. I really wanted to see how it would be going over the bridge. We got into our hotel that night, and it was a nice hotel. We stayed at the Best Western. We had a room that had lake views. That was nice. I didn't get to film outside that first day because we went over to the island the following day, Saturday, and we spent the whole day on the island and came back, stayed a second night, and got up the next day and came home. The next day it was really cloudy, so you couldn't really see like the beautiful views, but because we couldn't really see the water, because he knew that we had a lake view, and when we got to our rooms we couldn't see anything because it was dark. And Tim was looking outside. He was like, all I can see are trees. So I was like, well, we'll just wait until the morning and see if there's a lake outside. And sure enough, when we got up the next morning, we opened up the blinds and it was gorgeous. So we got up and went over to the island. So I pulled together a collage of the pictures that I did take in a couple of videos. So I hope you enjoy it. Alright, thanks for watching.
purchase round-trip tickets, you must have the second half of that ticket to board the ferry back to the mainland. So be sure to keep that safe for the duration of your trip. If you have luggage to board and are staying at Grand Hotel, Mission Point Resort, or Island House, your luggage will be taken directly to your hotel, and you can claim upon check-in.
You got video on it?
Yeah. What are we doing right now?
I think it's called climbing. What is this rock? Mackinac Peak Rock. Something.
How many stairs?
250.
How many you think we've done so far?
We probably did 220 so far. But we at the top now. They're in the tires, so I have to take a break for her.
Whatever.
Now she's struggling, y'all know. That's what I do every day.